Week 13 of college football is in the books, and that means it's time to update our 2025 top 10 quarterbacks for the NFL draft. Jalen Milroe from Alabama and Jaxson Dart from Ole Miss both fell on their faces in Week 13. We're going to see how far they fall down the board. Coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydays. And you know, I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. You talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ man, and the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. DP, today, you know, it's a classic Monday show, man. So we're going to do our quarterback rankings, right? 1 through 20 coming off of the weekend, and 1 through 10, coming off of the weekend. And then we're going to do our money makers and bag fumblers, right? Which guys made them some money, draft stock rose, which guys fumbled the bag, man, lost themselves some money this past weekend. And then you're going to get an appearance, Coach K, Coach DP, hopping in the locker room, passing out game balls. DP, let's get into it, man. I'm ready to get into these quarterback rankings.
You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 back in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Guys, if you're new here, listen, saddle up. Get strapped in. We talk about our top 10 quarterbacks, and we adjust the rankings every Monday, as Keith alluded to. Let's go ahead and get into it. At number 1, Miami quarterback Cam Ward. Nice win against Wake Forest. Number 2, Shedeur Sanders. QB 1 and 2 probably keep flipping as we get throughout this entire draft process. But Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. QB 3, Carson Beck was able to stack weeks, something he has not done all season. Had a good week in week 12. And came back with another good, strong performance in week 13. Number 4, a guy I continue to tell y'all you got to get on the hype train with, Drew Allar from Penn State. Number 5, Will Howard. Garrett Nussmeier had a great game this past weekend as well. He's at picks at number 6. Kyle McCord had a strong performance at number 7. Quinn Ewers was okay. He goes at number 8. Jaxson Dart at number 9, Jalen Milroe at number 10. Keith, I need to start. Let's start with 9. Let's start with Dart. And I know Ole Miss fans probably think these guys hate Jaxson Dart. That's not the case. Jaxson Dart was having a good game for a good portion of that contest, you know. And it's for me. And I had go ahead.
No, I was gonna say he made one hell of a throw. I think he had one
of Trey Harris.
Yeah, that was a dime right there that he had, man.
One of the most confident deep throws he's made all season, right? And accurate ball placement, all of it. And I was like, when I saw that play, now granted Trey Harris, he went out. He's dealing with a groin injury, and those can linger. You know what I mean? And he went out there, got the 43-yard touchdown. He was back in street clothes after that, right? Maybe a couple plays after that. But when I saw that throw, Keith, I was like, man, Jaxson Dart might be on the heater today. Like it might be at one of those games for him. And it was the fact that Florida never let them gain control. They kept the games close. And typically, what's the old phrase, Keith? If you let teams, like scrappy teams that may not be on your level, if you let them stay around, they're going to gain confidence and believe they can win. And that's what happened with Florida. And they felt like at one point it was 14-14, and then 17-17, and then Florida, it was Montreal Johnson got the touchdown. It was those last couple drives of Jaxson Dart with the game on the line, and it wasn't just not executing. And I said this, his numbers are great. And for those who watch the box score and they look at the tools, I'm like, man, how can you not want him as a first-round pick? It's the fact of when you watch everything else, when you say, okay, you strip away the isolated, schemed-up routes that just get someone wide open, and now the defense is hip to hip. A guy is open, but he's just not wide open. What is Jaxson Dart going to do? He had a Terrible interception. He threw down the field in the triple coverage, picked
Mhm.
off, right? Come back, had a drive where it looked like a miscommunication on the left side between him and the receiver. He overshoots it. DB makes a diving interception, but they said he didn't control it through the ground. Very next play, he threw an interception. This one was live though, and this one stuck. Like he threw it right over the head of Juice Wells, and it was an out up into a curl. And it was almost like an option route because it's like, hey, if the DB bites on the out and up, you take it vertical. On the out, you take it vertical. If he does not, he stays on top of it, bring it down, check it, hook it down, which is what Juice Wells did. He did the right thing. I got a safety hovering over top, and this defender is not biting on the out. I got to check, cut it short. Keith, one of the things that the phrase that young people like to use nowadays, Keith, is crash out. And when I look at Jaxson Dart in late game situations, wasn't it? I forget which game it was earlier this season.
Kentucky.
But it was one of
the Kentucky game.
Like you don't close the deal there, right? Like, and in this game, multiple throws into 2-3 defender windows, and it's like he tests those throws. He tests those windows like. We see like Josh Allen test like certain throws, Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes and Justin Herbert. Like, you know what? The math gonna be the math, but I got the arm, and they're gonna test it, right? And they make some, they miss some. Jaxson Dart doesn't have that type of arm talent, but even then, it's in the fourth quarter in those big moments. I feel like mentally he crashes out. He takes chances that he shouldn't take. He threw the interception in the triple coverage. He threw the game-ending interception. And I just feel like just watching him in that situation, when you extrapolate and pull away the isolated, schemed up routes when things are open, I don't know what we said on, what was it, last Wednesday, best landing spots.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to be put into an offense that will remove him from those situations, right? He is an aggressive vertical thrower. He needs an offense that's going to make him focus on 0 to 10 and then 0 to 15. We'll isolate the 20-plus shots, but those 0 to 10, 0 to 15, that's where you want to live. And that's why he came in at the ninth spot, because in a game where nobody had Florida favored, like you were the deciding factor with your turnovers late in that game.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think it's just those big moments that you want to see Jaxson Dart in, right? And see what he can do. And it's like, it's just been a reoccurring theme. I think we've been talking about this for almost 2 to 3 years now, just with Jaxson Dart. And he's had plenty of opportunities. And I'll say this, you even thought that he might have turned the corner with Ole Miss beating Georgia. It's like, hey, that was probably his one of his career. That's probably the biggest win he's had, as far as, like beating a team that you haven't really beaten, and that was like a true powerhouse, things of that nature. So it'll be interesting to see, DP, when you look at the QB rankings. Can you pull it back up? And I look at, Cam Moore being at 1, Shador at 2, Carson Beck at 3. What are people not picking up with Will Howard, right? Because I think his name is falling under the radar, and there's some of the things that you're seeing with him.
Man, I think when they look at this, it's kind of the Ohio State thing. Like, man, he's got all these weapons. He runs the offense, man. Like, he runs the offense. He has a command of that offense, and he runs it well. I think people wanted to see, after what we saw with Kyle McCord last year with Marvin Harrison, and Kyle McCord didn't look good. Like, I'm not gonna lie, if they had this year's Kyle McCord, they probably win the championship with the way he's confidently throwing the ball, and you know what I mean, and having Marvin and everything else. But people expect like Will Howard coming in, very mobile quarterback, big. He's got a good arm. Like physically, he's probably a tier ahead physically of a Kyle McCord. So they're expecting gaudy numbers. Well, he hasn't been putting up the gaudy stats. You know what he's been doing, Keith? He's been managing the game. He's just been running the offense when he needs to make a throw down the field. It's been accurate. Even though he has a good arm, he knows how to throw with touch, and understands how to go between striking and lofting. And I appreciate that with him, especially down the field. He's got some dimes against man-to-man coverage where you're just like, all right, like what kind of quarterback are you? Are you going to overshoot this because you're trying to put too much arm on it? Like, are you thinking too much with it? No, he drops back and he just lets it rip, and he's been putting the ball right where it needs to be. I just think he's not going to wow you with the numbers, and like he's not making the gaudy, the highlight reel throws like the Will Levis, some of the throws Will Levis made, his last year, his 2 years in Kentucky. We're not seeing that right now. At Kansas State, he had some of those throws, but right now, the way Chip Kelly's calling his offense, Will Howard's just operating it. And at the end of the day, Keith, from an NFL standpoint, that's what you got. That's half the battle is operating the offense as it's designed. And I think he's doing a good job of that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when it'll be the pre-draft process, right? Well, not pre-draft process, but the draft process that'll kind of be the tall tale where we'll start getting into the measurables and arm strength and the throws he can make. Because right now he's operating in the confines of this offense, right? At the end of the day. But DP, let's keep this thing going, man. And coming up next, we're going to talk money makers and bag fumblers, which draft prospects made themselves some monies and which draft prospects fumbled the bag. Coming up next.
Time is our most precious commodity. So don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, 40 FREE free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and the history of the Constitution, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just simply enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/locked-on to enroll. There's no cost and it's easy to get started. Again, that's hillsdale.edu/locked-on to register. Guys, you don't want to miss out on this free deal. All you need to do is simple. Go to hillsdale.edu/locked-on. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Guys, it's Prize Picks. Run your game. Money makers and bag fumblers. Again, if you're new here, stock up, stock down for this podcast, just with a little swag added to it. Keith, I called this guy out on Friday's show in our second topic. Pat Bryant, 7 catches on 12 targets. He had a receiving touchdown that won the game. The only receiving touchdown of the game, and that was the one to close the game. 197 yards receiving against Rutgers, man. And in that game, Keith,
that was a wild ending too. That was a wild ending to that game.
It really was. I don't know, that was just a helter-skelter game in general. Because at one point, Illinois was down, I think 10 plus points at one point early in the game. They fought back, then Rutgers took the lead. I was like, hey, what is going on in this game? Like, who's going to pull it out? And one thing I noticed is that this is the trust of having a good wide receiver with a quarterback. Yeah, that quarterback, Luke Altmaier, every time he saw one-on-one, he looked nowhere else than to Pat Bryant's side. Like once he saw it pre-snap, went back to it post-snap. Oh, it's still single coverage. Oh, I'm trusting my guy to come down with the ball. And like just the body control. He's got a good stride to him. They'll be able to press the vertical plane, make plays at the catch point to again finish the game. 12 targets, 7 catches, 197 yards receiving and a touchdown. I appreciate him for making your boy look good because I called him out in our second topic on Friday. Keith is a second-tier prospect. Again, in this wide receiver class, and he has the size at 6'3", 210 that you want for an outside receiver, but he also can work in the slot or in 3x1 sets as a big power inside receiver as well. As we saw, he was on the outside and he ran that in cut and then caught the ball. He's good after the catch. Just another solid option. I think the comp company that came to mind was Van Jefferson as like a taller, not as explosive athletic guy, but very detailed, nuanced, knew how to get to his spots, work to his landmarks, win one-on-one situations. But for me, Pat Bryant is a more physical and aggressive receiver, especially at the catch point, where with Van was more of the route runner, separate on grass, where Pat can actually go up and dominate at the catch point and play like a big power forward at times as well. So guys show love. Pat Bryant, I think he's going to be the way the season's going, he's helping himself in this wide receiver class.
Yeah, how much does he remind you of somebody like Dontavian Wicks from Virginia a few years ago?
I can see that. I think Wicks was just from a release and route running standpoint, Wicks was just a little bit more like detailed and savvy. Yeah. If he can add some of that to his game, Keith, that'll change a lot for him, because then now it allows him to win earlier in reps and get open a lot sooner in reps as well. But very good, a really good ball player, and a guy that truthfully is just having a really productive season. Had a good season last year. He's doubling down on that in 2024.
Yeah, no, I like that, DP. I have two running backs for my money makers. First, I'm going with Kansas running back. Probably could have gave him the game ball too. Devin Neal, we talked about him a decent amount on this podcast. 37 carries, 207 yards, and 4 touchdowns. DP, you had the graphic locked and loaded right there. I see you on the ones and twos. But listen, you're talking about like one of the hottest teams in college football right now. And you're like, man, if y'all would just be playing how y'all were playing now, y'all would probably be in the playoff conversation, right? Y'all have literally knocked off. I think they've like single-handedly flipped the Big 12 upside down, because I think they went through, was it BYU, Iowa State, and Colorado? And I think that was the 3 teams that was at the top of the Big 12. They literally ran through the gamut, right? And it's just like, man, a slow start, and just how that affects where your program ends up at, just not having a slow start. But this is what we thought they would be preseason, right? Like you knew Jalen Daniels was a good quarterback. You knew Devin Neal could tote the rock. You knew they had 2 corners, right? And you knew they had veterans littered throughout the rest of this team. And then now you sit there and look at them and be like, yeah, y'all playing good football as expected. But I wanted to say, Devin Neal is a guy that I think is elevating his name and his game, right? You're talking about when we get to the draft process, they're going to see this guy, 5'11", 220 pounds, lateral agility. And then when you tote the ball 37 times, you show NFL teams that, look, I could be the lead back, right? And you have these NFL needy teams that need running backs. They could potentially sitting there saying, hold on, I could snatch this guy up in the 3rd, 4th round, right? And have him be the feature back of my offense. I mean, we talked about how much the Cowboys need a running back. I mean, why not turn and look at him, right? And be like, hey, can he get the job done? The other guy, DP, is a guy that's been like way off of the radar, right? For us. And that's Ollie Gordon. He tote the rock this past week, and he had a really good game. And you know what it was for me? It was the versatility, right? Like him also catching the ball out of the backfield, the screens, just doing different things. And I think as a name that was, because of where Oklahoma State is as a program, the lack of carries, right, coming off of winning a Bednarik last year to what the season was, totally off of the radar. But I think he placed himself back in the conversation of he's going to get draft, like NFL scouts to be like, maybe we get him ball, he could be somewhat productive, right? And I think he put himself back in maybe not the 1st round conversation, right? But you talk about 3rd, 4th round conversations. I think he could potentially do that. Just when you look at his athletic profile, what he is, and just the rest of his running back class.
No, I mean, and he's needed a game like this, you know what I mean, to be able to just like hang his hat on, because it's been tough sledding for him. You know what I mean? The 6'2", 230-pound running back who is very good with his shoulder squared, attacking line of scrimmage. Like I said, 15 for 156 and 3 rushing touchdowns. Like, that's what you want to see. You want to give him those runaways, let him be that big physical downhill thumper. And when he gets momentum going, like, he's got a nice stiff arm. Like, I think I compared him to Braylon Allen in terms of like draft capital and value. If a team, again, those teams that don't value selecting running backs early, if he's there back into the 3rd, top of the 4th, and you need a starter and he fits your scheme, like you draft the Ollie Gordon and you feel good about it. Like, listen, all we got to do, we can get a scat back, somebody to change the pace and give you a breather.
He would be a perfect
run game.
Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears type of complimentary player, right? Like somewhere in there.
They need, that power back. They need something like that. So, I like the call out for him. Keith, what goes up must come down. the Colorado defensive seven front seven. You talk about Devin Neal, like guys, one man won that game against y'all, and it was Devin Neal.
Yep,
right? He had 4
100%.
total touchdowns. Now I'll talk about him in the next segment. Coach DP is going to talk about Devin Neal a little bit too. Just a little foreshadowing to the game ball topic. But like you knew who was getting the ball almost every single play. And it's the simple fact of like Colorado's second level defenders had a horrible, like this was the worst game to have your worst game. Like you needed this game. You were ranked 16th coming in. You needed to win this game. Like keep yourself in range for the Big 12 championship game to be able to win the Big 12. Now you got 3 losses on the season. There were so many missed tackles. Like even his ability to keep him catching the ball at the backfield. Talking about Devin Neal, like yeah, that Colorado front seven, like they've played like Colorado's defense has played good ball for most of the season. Mm-hmm. This was the worst game to have your worst game. So talking about stock down, man. I think everybody on that front seven right now is reeling, and their stocks is like, I think most of those guys probably would have been day 3 prospects anyway, because they're not like true NFL size guys for the most part. A lot of them are like undersized guys, but they've been playing good ball. Yeah, it's just been tough, Keith.
Yep, 100% with DP. Let's go ahead and make these guest appearances, man. Bring out Coach K, bring out Coach DP, and let's hand out the game balls to the prospects that we think elevated their team wins. We're going to talk about that coming up next.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch or an urge in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you placed your bets. All you need to do is just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, you'll get started with $150 back in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, guys, that's FanDuel.com to get in the action and join today. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday. Shout for being our everydayers. Coach K, Coach DP, handing out the game balls. And Keith, you alluded to it. I'm coming right back to it. This was my guy for my game ball pick, and that was Devin Neal, right? 37 carries, 207 yards, and 4 total touchdowns. He caught the ball out of the backfield and he was their leading rusher and their leading receiver in this game, Keith. He had 80 yards through the air, and I believe 50 came on a catch and run. I kind of think it was a screen play in that game where he took it early. I think it might have been their first touchdown, and he just took it to the house, right? Like he made multiple guys miss. And this was something that I've been waiting for them to kind of do, is use him more in the passing game, because they haven't done that a lot. But in his career especially, but he can catch the ball out of the backfield. And with this, his ability to string together cuts, be elusive in open field, force multiple defenders to whiff, to miss, to swing for air and everything else, Keith. Like, I just look at this situation, man, and I said, listen, like you talked about, Colorado defense, they knew what was coming, and they still couldn't stop it. And he played like it's like he almost took this game personal. You saw the energy with him, Keith, where like after every big run, like he's talking his stuff, like he's like in the face of the camera, he's flexing, like he just took this game. I feel like he felt disrespected in this running back class, because us included, everybody's talked about. Now, what do I keep saying? Like we talk about Ashton Jeanty, and for good reason, right? He's chasing Barry Sanders, all that good stuff. But there's way too many backs to get fixated on one in this class, man. We got to talk about all these guys: Ramali Gordon, Marion Hampton, Devin Neal. Like it's Cam Scatterbo, who like it's so many running backs that literally is like walking into an ice cream shop and they have every flavor in the world. I'm like, you know what? I'm okay here. I can find what I need. And Devin Neal, absolutely, to me, I think I came into the season, Keith, with a day 2 grade on him, like a 3rd and everything. And that's probably going to stay the same. He's going to be a day 2.
Yeah.
He's going to hold steady. Because I think about guys like, and don't get me wrong, I think a Quinshawn is maybe a more talented back than him? Yeah, I do. You know what I'm saying? Stronger, more physical, stuff like that. But the production and the lack of production,
Yeah,
right?
that situation be just becoming a head scratcher, right? Because it's like even the running backs, like we listed off. We even listed off Damian Martinez. And
Yep.
just like his lack of production. We listed off Ollie Gordon. We listed off Devin Neal coming in and out. Like even those running backs that throughout the season the production hasn't been there, they're giving us one appearance, right?
Yeah.
It's just the Quinshawn situation. It's head scratching for me at this point because I have no idea on
They
when
run
they.
different plays for him and Travion too. And it's
Yeah,
like you
yep,
see
100%.
Travion might pop one, and it's like, what just happened? Oh, you're running pin and pull, you running G8 GT counter. It's like, how about you run GT counter for my boy Quinshawn? Let's get Quinshawn 2 lead blockers up the lane and up the alley, man. So I think with Devin Neal, he's right now, like, and he's been having a solid season too. Like he's been having a good year. It's just the fact that Kansas has not been the Kansas we thought they were going to be. Well, up until the last 3 weeks when they've been balling and playing on fire, man. I think he's making himself. He's made himself some money, and I think if they continue this out, next week and everything, bowl game. If they make one, I don't know if they might be bowl eligible. If they get the 6 wins, I think if you get the 6 wins, you're bowl eligible. They got
Yeah.
one more game to get that 6 win. Got that there 5 wins right now. They get that 6 win, man. They go bowl eligible. Devin Neal playing the bowl game, dog. Go play in the bowl game. Go to the Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl, whatever. Go show out and showcase yourself and help yourself, man, because he's a talented back, Keith, and they don't win that game without him. That's why he's my game ball pick.
Yep, 100% with DP. You kind of already you mentioned my game ball guy, but I'm hopping into this Arizona State locker room after the whole botched end of the game situation. I'm handing the game ball off to Cam Scatterbull, man. Sitting here looking at the stats, right? He had 28 carries for 147 yards, but this is a guy that's been doing it all season long, right? He's been the workhorse, and honestly, I don't think anybody had Arizona State sitting in this position to where they could potentially win the Big 12. And I would say this, that a large portion of this is off of his back, right? Like he's been the engine, he's been the motor for this Arizona State offense, and he's just simply getting the job done at the end of the day, right? And you may not know if he runs a 4.4 or a 4.6, right? He can run that, but you look at him and you're saying like, man, this guy, he just gets it. He's a football player. He's scrappy as hell. And I'll even say this, man, he even helped get the fans back off the field, right? The guy does it all. He helped usher them off the field when I was watching it on TV. So I'm giving the game ball to Cam Scatterbull.
No, I'm not mad at that at all, Keith. This is again, he may not be a 3rd round, a 2nd round pick, but somebody's gonna be happy when they draft him to their team. Like somebody's going to be happy with him, man. He's a football player through and through. He runs hard. Open field speed is more than functional, more than solid. But he's physical, man. He's got great contact balance as well. Again, it's just he plays at Arizona State. It's just and even though they're playing good ball now, people still aren't watching them. And unless they make the playoff, now he go and kills in the playoffs. People got to take notice. They got to say, man, I got to get eyes on Cam Scatterbull, man. So I'm happy you called him out, Keith, because, again, just another talented name in this loaded running back class. At the end of the day, guys, if you need one, but it's not high priority, if you already got a veteran, you just need a young guy, there's no other draft than to go ahead and grab one. Whether it's 4th, 5th, or 6th round, you're going to be able to find yourself a functional 2nd, even 3rd running back for your roster, because this is a loaded group.
Yeah, 100% with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. You can find me on X at the talent code. That right there is my guy, Mr. Damian Parson. And you can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers. On tomorrow's show, we got perfect prospect pairing. Keith, I'm taking one of the better cornerbacks, even though he's not healthy, Siobhan Revel. And I'm throwing him to an AFC team. And we're going to see if he can improve that secondary. So we're going to talk about that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.